Hi, my name is Monica and welcome to my brand new channel. Alright, so in the spirit of full honesty here, this is my first time doing anything like this. But it's 2022 and it's time to try something new. So here I am, finding new ways to express myself and new ways to share my hobbies, my interests, and my passions with other people. First of all, I am not the type of person who makes New Year's resolutions. Have I done it? Yes. Have I ever actually achieved those goals? No. So over the last few years, I've actually decided to kind of pull back from making New Year's resolutions, and instead I do things like making a theme for the year or a word of the year or just some kind of overarching idea that I want to focus on rather than making pointed and specific goals. Because honestly, I feel like most of the time I'm setting myself up for failure. I make these goals that are too specific, they're too lofty, unattainable, and then I end up not being able to fulfill them by the end of the year because, let's face it, life is great at throwing curveballs at us, and if we make goals that are too specific or unrealistic right from the start, those curveballs are going to make it so much harder to achieve those goals. So I tend to shy away from making really specific goals, and instead I make smaller ones or overarching themes to focus on. This year, I did decide to make a few small goals, and they all happen to be reading related. So let's dive in. My Goodreads reading goal is to read 40 books by the end of the year. This is 15 more than my goal of 25 from last year, which, although I didn't expect to make it, I actually ended up reading 31 books last year. So the 40 actually might be reasonable because I am going to push myself a little bit more. I do want to focus more on reading this year than some of the other things that I've been doing, like watching endless amounts of TV, which isn't a bad thing, but I do want to focus more on reading. So how did I get my goal last year? Well, I read a few series, and one of which was a series that I read when I was a lot younger. I just wanted to reread it, and the books were really short. So those were easy to get through. I also read a number of audiobooks. I guess I didn't technically read them, but I listened to them. And I actually listened to those while I was at work, but my roles at my work have changed recently. That does not allow me to listen to those audiobooks anymore. So I do have to find a new way to do that if I'm going to continue listening to audiobooks. And I'm not really great at it because I tend to lose my focus and forget everything I've listened to. That being said, I'm hoping that I can continue reading some audiobooks this year, but that's a work in progress. Not necessarily a new goal because I've been trying to do that for the last year, but we're still working on it. My unique goal for this year, aside from the actual number of books I want to read, is how I want to read those books and which books to read. So I've been a part of Amazon Kindle First Reads for a couple of years now. For those who don't know what that is, Amazon First Reads is this free program you can sign up for where you are sent a list of 7 to 8 books every month at the beginning of the month, and you can choose one book for free that you get to take, you get to read, hopefully review, and share that book with others, because these are all pre-releases, brand new releases that you get even before their official launch date. The hope is that you're reading and sharing these books with others, but I, unfortunately, have really fallen behind in reading them. I've been collecting them, and they're piling up quite a bit by now. So my goal for this year is to actually be reading all of these Kindle First books that I get when I get them. That means when I pick a book in January, by the end of that month, I want to have read that book or at least have started it. I really don't want to be piling up all these books, these new releases by possibly even new authors. I really want to be able to support them. So I'm going to be reading the books that I get for free. I'm going to be reading them the month I get them. So that means by the end of the year, I definitely will have read at least those 12 books because they will be one from each month. Sometimes they even send you 2. In a similar vein, I do have another even more mini goal that I want to focus on this year, and that is to get through some of the books that I've been borrowing from people. My sister and I have pretty similar taste in books. And so a lot of times she'll read a lot faster than me. She'll get through a book and tell me I really need to read it, and she'll lend it to me. However, by now I have a whole pile of books that I have borrowed from her and never gotten around to reading. So alternating with my Kindle books, I also want to be reading some of those books that I've borrowed so that I can get them back to their owners. And then this isn't necessarily a goal, this is just kind of a fun reading element that I'm going to fit into the year, but I've noticed a lot of people have been doing the A to Z reading challenge every year, and that's where within a calendar year they try to read one book that starts with every letter of the alphabet. And while this is really cool, it's also really difficult, and by the end of the year people are usually asking for help finding books that start with certain letters. So I don't really want to put that much pressure on myself this year, especially when I have these other small goals to work on. But just as a fun element, I am going to be tracking my reading in an A to Z tracker to see which letters I do cover as I go through the year. Again, this is not so that I can pressure myself into reading a book that starts with each letter, but rather by the end of the year, I want to be able to see which letters I did read. Maybe next year I'll push myself and do the actual A to Z challenge, but for now, it's just a fun tracker for me to see which books I'm reading. Now, let me get into the book that I'm currently reading. As I mentioned earlier, I am trying to get through all of my Kindle First Reads books, and so far, I am 1 for 1. I am currently reading the book that I chose for January. If anyone watching is a part of Amazon First Reads already, drop a comment letting me know which book you chose for January, because I'd love to hear the selections people are making. There are always some incredible choices to choose from, and they have all different genres. So let me know what you're reading in the comments, and I will let you know what I'm reading right now. So for January, I chose Impossible to Forget by Imogen Clark, which is about the journey of a daughter who has recently lost her mother. However, the mother left instructions on how her 18-year-old daughter was to be cared for after she was gone. She left these instructions for 4 of her friends to kind of take over the responsibility of caring for this daughter until she was out of high school. The problem is that some of these adults don't really know why they were chosen. I mean, yes, they were all really good friends with her, but some of them are confused by the roles they're supposed to play. And there's one guardian that was not really connected to the rest from the beginning. So they're all trying to figure out why this guardian was chosen. So far, I'm about 40% into the book, and it's been a lot of backstory and telling us how the characters get to know each other and how the mother got to become friends with 3 of the 4 guardians. The 4th guardian is still a mystery, but we shall see. But yeah, it's a really good book so far. It is a bit slow because we're getting through so much relationship building, but I think that it is a very character-driven story. Rather than plot, it is incredibly character-driven, and knowing the personalities and just the reason that this mother got along well and why she chose these 4 people to care for her daughter after she was gone. So yeah, I will be updating everyone on this challenge every month as I get through the books, just to let you know which book I'm picking and how I felt about the previous one. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, that's all I've got for today, but I want to thank you so much for sticking around with me through this first video, and I hope to see you in the future. Bye!